Welcome to Eternal Dread, where fear never sleeps. Tell us where you're watching from, and what time it is, because terror has no limits. If you're brave enough, share and comment, but beware, something might be watching you too. Now, turn off the lights, and let the dread begin. This will probably get annoying for both of us, but I have to change a few names in this post. Basically, I signed a non-disclosure agreement with a certain corporation, and I'm not even supposed to be sharing what I'm about to say. Changing the names will at least give me some little shred of legal safety. In fact, for legal purposes, I'll go ahead and say this story is completely fictional, and any relation to real-world events is a total coincidence. Plus, let's be honest, any attempts at tracing this to me will not work, but you're welcome to try. So, there's this company called Zillion, that I'm sure you've all heard of. They're probably one of the most well-known corporations in the world, and everyone with an internet connection has definitely used their search engine at least once. Zillion started out with a simple motto: never be bad. The idea was that they were a different sort of company, one that actually cared about the users, their happiness, and above all else, their privacy. That last concern went out the window pretty quickly. Now it's all about serving targeted advertisements and collecting data. I've heard that Zillion itself has more information on citizens than any government in the world. All of this is why I was highly skeptical about their intent when they launched the Donational project. They claimed it was the next step in crowdfunding and charitable giving, but I'm sure I wasn't alone in thinking there had to be some major catches. The premise was simple enough. 2 randomly selected applicants to the program, one male, one female, would be given the new Zillion Specs, internet-connected glasses to wear during every waking moment. A group of 100 other applicants would then be able to watch a live stream of these 2 subjects at any time they chose, using a very secure browser-based control panel through Zillion's subsidiary video platform, ViewPipe. In other words, you could see through the eyes of these 2 subjects at pretty much any time of day. The only time the glasses were allowed to be disconnected from streaming, by contract, was between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That was to allow for sleep, showers, etc. Exceptions could be made for bathroom breaks, but Zillion seemed oddly specific about their duration in the original application process. Now, on to the crowdfunding aspect. The 100 viewers were given randomly assigned names combining an adjective and an animal name. For example, users would be known as Red Shark, Purple Flea, etc. These users also each received a healthy daily allowance of Z points, which they could send to the 2 streamers at any point they chose. Points would roll over from day to day, and if the project had officially launched, these points would have been purchased with real-world currency. If you're lost by now, I guess I would sum up the whole thing like this. Viewers watch the streamers in their day-to-day lives, and give their Z points to a streamer when they want to support them. In practice, I suppose the final service would have allowed viewers to enter the Donational website, select what kind of person or project they wanted to support, and then monitor the work and deeds of whoever represented the cause and wore the Zillion Specs. Streamers would then be able to withdraw the Z points in the form of real money, with Zillion taking their cut, of course. Right away, Blue Mule was a problem. I saw him in one of the stream chats on the very first day, when the streams began. I had started off watching the male subject, dubbed Keith, though I'm sure it wasn't his real name. Blue Mule was an obvious troll. There were strict moderators in place to keep chat from getting unruly, but I could tell he was testing the limits. He knew exactly what to say, and how to say it in order to avoid actually triggering punishment. He'd twist the arm just enough before it broke. At one point, Blue Mule asked if Keith was gay after the streamer had randomly looked at a passing man's body on the street. When people asked why he would say that, he explained that he was just wondering if Zillion was representing the LGBT properly. I don't think anyone believed that, but there was no real way to prove his concern wasn't legitimate. Blue Mule is actually the reason I switched from watching Keith's stream to watching Kelly's. The moderator presence was kind of having a chilling effect on the flow of the chat, and I didn't enjoy the extra surveillance he was forcing on us. Kelly was an interesting choice for the program. Whereas Keith was the standard blonde surfer dude, who was hoping to get funding for a new board and gear, Kelly was looking for help with her terminally ill mother, and possibly opening a dress shop if that funding goal was met. She seemed sad, all the time. It wasn't something incredibly obvious, but when we watched through her eyes and heard her speak, there was always a little bit of a dark cloud in her voice. She enjoyed an ice cream cone, strawberry cheesecake, I think, but went on to say it reminded her of when her mom took her out for ice cream. She saw a stray cat and stopped to pet it, then asked if it used to have a warm bed before it was thrown out. Everything had that sort of depressing tinge to it, which I guess is why she wasn't getting anywhere near the same Z points that Keith was. As the days went on, viewers helped Keith pick which type of board he was going to buy, what graphics it would have, and so on. It quickly became a system of putting numbers into the stream chat to signal which choice would win. Almost as quickly, Keith realized his missed opportunity and switched to making us vote with Z points. Donate now for this design. Okay, donate now for this one. And so on. Very smart, though not subtle. Kelly had a day where her grand total of Z points earned came to 200. Barely anything, and before Zillion's cut. She had spent the day in bed, not saying anything, with her zillion specs on the nightstand, facing an empty section of her bedroom. Some of us speculated that she had gotten a bad call about her mother during the stream's downtime, but no one knew for sure. At first, people sent her Z points to try to cheer her up, but Blue had come over at this point and helpfully stated that she wouldn't see the donation alerts if she wasn't wearing the glasses. It went downhill from there, far and fast. They didn't care if she had tears in her eyes or snot in her nose. The fact that she was crying did little to stop what was happening. It didn't take a brain surgeon to figure it out. Kelly realized that she was getting donations when she was in front of the mirror, donations that grew when she would adjust her top, and would shrink if she was doing her makeup or just primping in general. I don't know how serious the situation was with her mom, but Kelly went to a very dark place, and Blue Mule was there to crack every borderline joke possible. Kelly outpaced Keith in donations when her streams became largely about trying on bathing suits. Painting her toenails and putting lotion on her feet weren't as popular, but had their own dedicated fan base with Z points to burn. She ended up looking completely defeated. There was a definite clause about nudity in the application we'd seen, but in the same way Blue Mule knew how to avoid a ban, Kelly became an expert at showing everything but. I started watching Keith again, after it became apparent this was going to be Kelly's life going forward. The chat moderators seemed oddly tight-lipped about the direction things had taken, as if they'd been notified by higher-ups that they needed to be very careful about not supporting or condemning the behavior. After all, this was all data for the test run, right? Keith's streams were boring and predictable as I'd expected, especially after the descent into depravity I had just witnessed. After he was basically getting nothing in terms of Z points, he was far less interested in interacting with the chat. He would do things like wear the zillion specks on his forehead, angled at the ceiling, while he watched television or viewpipe videos. I was in Keith's stream when Kelly was killed. I phrase it that way because I'll always blame the viewers for what happened. Someone popped into Keith's chat and shouted, in caps lock, that everyone needed to come to Kelly's stream right away. Watching Keith's ceiling fan spin wasn't really doing much for me, so I switched over quickly. As was now usual in Kelly's streams, I could see a mirror. The zillion specks were lying on the bathroom counter, and the sink was painted with red streaks. A previously white towel was now entirely damp and crimson. I asked what was going on, but the chat was flying by at this point, and I could tell people were already tired of explaining the situation to a constant stream of newcomers. I only found out later that someone had been funneling an extreme amount of Z points into Kelly's account. Someone who had apparently saved all of their points. They had donated to no one, until that very night. They started coming in when Kelly got a paper cut and looked at the blood on her finger for a split second. She noticed, and putting two and two together quickly, tried making a small cut on the palm of her hand. Blood. Money. More blood. More money. Lots of blood. Lots of money. Eventually, she must have hit an artery by mistake. In an instant, Zillion shut the chat down, and the camera feed went black. Keith's stream was down too, the chat still racing. Within moments, the URL wasn't even reachable. It was like the project hadn't even existed. I mean, you'd have to be kind of stupid to not see what company I'm referring to here. Go ahead and try to find any mention of them running a crowd-funding social experiment using their patented internet-connected lenses and video streaming website. It's completely whitewashed. This is probably why they stopped promoting those lenses in the first place. Those of us seeking answers set up a small, private group to discuss what exactly had happened. Unfortunately, in our haste, we put it right on Zillion's failed social media platform, Zillion Sphere, and it was found and deleted on the third day it existed. What I did find out, however, was this. Blue was probably far worse than any of us even realized. One member of the group said he had chatted with the user at one point, asking what he did or didn't give Z points for. It was a common question at the time, since everyone was anonymous, and we could only really connect with each other by discussing the project. Blue answer was innocuous at the time, but given his penchant for wordplay and pushing boundaries, it's taken on a much more chilling tone now. I'm saving mine for when someone really opens up to me. I don't know what Zillion was thinking, really. Someone as obviously sick and antagonistic as Blue should never have gotten past the first phases of test group selection. What's more, it seemed like they didn't even take any action after the fact. I can't say for sure, since this isn't first-hand information, but multiple sources in the group remember Blue dropping a few hints about his true identity, again, something that was expressly forbidden. If you watch Viewpipe, you've seen me, winky face. It's a disturbing thought, to say the least. Who would be so important to Zillion that they'd not only let him into the project despite all red flags, but would also protect him to that degree? If Zillion has its way, I suppose we'll never know. As the first morning's light would begin to appear, making its way through the window, making its way across the room over from me, sending its light, its message, to me as I laid there saying to me, "On this autumn morning day, something I have to show you," shining its light upon my bed slowly, making its way across my face, wanting to reveal unto me what it wanted to show me. Just as I slowly began to open my eyes looking into its morning light, for it had something it wanted to reveal to me. And reveal it would with me waking up to a day where I would see and know everything that was true to me. Everything that was once me. Everything that would no longer be with me on this autumn day. As the first morning's light began its slow rise to a new day. A day that would come to haunt me, a day that would come to me on that one autumn day. Sensing and knowing that something about me on that day was different, knowing something about me just didn't feel right. Suddenly realizing as I jolted up I was somewhere, a place that I once called home. Realizing that I was in a room that I had not been in for over 30 years. A room that was once mine growing up as a kid. Just as the morning light shined upon me, glaring down to me hauntingly. A whisper then seemed to come out of nowhere saying, "Everything that was you, you will see." And to that a fear of not knowing of what was to come was all around me. Just as my hand reached down onto a picture, beside me looking down at the picture, seeing it was a picture of a girl. A girl that I had no memory of, or even knew why it was laying beside me. With me still not fully aware of everything that was happening at the moment. Slowly coming to a realization that something else was off about me. Something that was slowly coming to me, for what the night hid from me the morning's light would reveal to me. Placing my hands on the side of my face, as I slowly moved them up, and across my hair, realizing that this wasn't my hair. Before moving my hands slowly down what wasn't my body. Before coming to what the hell. Sitting there still in shock, not able to say a word. With my hand doing all the feeling and talking. With my eyes fully wide open now, hearing around me laughing, as if the sun was now laughing at me. Jumping out of the bed with my hand still in between my mid. Running to the bathroom, looking into the mirror, when a full realization came upon me. I was looking at the girl that was in the picture laying beside me on the bed. Who was she? Who was I? Placing my hands behind my head as I cried out. Why? What in the hell has happened? Hearing a voice saying to me, "Is this not what you wanted? But this is what you got." Or grabbed. I was looking at a girl who I did not know, or had no memory of, thinking to myself, what else has this day have yet to reveal to me? Feeling a hand then smack me on my ass saying to me, "Little bitch. Still doesn't know dose she. But you will know." Running out of the bathroom with my hands covering and holding my ass yelling. Doesn't know what? What in the hell? Standing in the hall still confused of how or what has happened. Standing there still holding my nude ass. That I had on in a house that I had not lived in for over 30 years. Standing there as looked to a picture that was hanging on the wall in front of me. It was a picture of me and my mom and dad, along with a picture of my son, just as they then started sticking their tongues out at me, saying to me, "Little bitch still doesn't know. Little bitch still doesn't know." Placing my hands on my head screaming, "What in the holy hell? But how?" With what I could remember, a picture never hung there, specially of my family sticking their tongues out at me. A sense of fear came over me, as if the picture was looking back at me as the light from the sun came slowly down the hall, making its way across the picture. Just as the words would appear on the wall saying, "Everything that was you, you will see." Screaming, "Show me what?" As I walked my nude ass around till I found some clothes, before making my way through the house into the kitchen. looking out of the window into a world that I had not seen in over 30 years. Memories would come back to me, memories of me growing up there as a kid. Just as I looked down on the table, a picture album was there, as if it just appeared. Opening it up, seeing pictures of me growing up, sitting there flipping through the pages, thinking back to then. When I then came upon a picture me as a kid, but with some words written above me saying, "Everything that was you, you will see." Just as I then vanished from the picture, a picture of my dad and me I saw. Just as the sun's light shined through the window, as if it was telling me to come. Making my way out of the house onto a hill that was behind my house. In the distance, my dad I could see standing there looking out into the mountain that was in front of our house. Walking up to him, he would then look at me saying, "I don't know you," as he then held up a picture of me, who I once was saying, "This is who I know. The person that was once my son, not some little bitch standing here in front of me." As he then just turned to walk away, reaching out my arms screaming, "I am your son. Do you not know me?" Just as the sun's light seemed to brighten around my dad as he walked away, fading into the field with the light fading with him. A whisper then came to me saying, "A dad that was so true to you, you will never know again." Placing my hands on my head as I screamed, "What in the hell is going on? What is happening to me? Why?" Just as a breeze blew past me, saying, "Everything that was you, you will see. Everything that was true to you, you will never know again." Standing there looking around, knowing and feeling the loss that I just saw, all I could do was just stand there looking around to where I would play as a kid. Looking to my grandparents' house in the distance, the memories begin to come to me. But not of what happened, not of how this happened. The day still yet had to reveal that. But as I stood there listening and looking, no sounds could I hear, or no birds flying around. Void of everything except from just what I could see. But beyond the mountains, in the distance, a blackness was behind it. It was as if I was in another realm that had not fully revealed itself to me as the day went on. With the sun now at mid-sky shining down on me, saying to me more it had to show me as I looked up to it. Making my way back down to my house, making my way up to my front porch, sitting there as the same picture album would then appear to me again. As I looked through the pictures, only to see me vanish in them one by one, with a voice then suddenly saying, "Bye-bye. Is this not what you asked for?" That was when I came across a picture of my mom, and me just as an eerie feeling would come over me, just as a cool breeze blew past me, as if it was saying, "Come to me." Looking out to a tree that stood there in front of my house, with its leaves a mix of bright yellow and a velvet color, as the wind was blowing through its leaves on this one autumn day. Standing there was my mom, running over to her screaming, "Mom!" Just as she then looked to me saying, "I do not know you. Who is this little bitch standing here in front of me?" With me then screaming, "Mom, it's me, your son. Do you not know me?" Just as my mom then held up a picture to me saying, "This was my son whom I loved, but now he is forever gone to me." With the sun's light now shining brightly through the tree leaves, shining onto my mom with a whisper saying to me, "You will never know no one else that will be as true to you in this life." Just as she then vanished, taking with her the brightness of the sun's light. Screaming was all I could do, falling to my knees, screaming with my hands over my head, looking up to the sky screaming, "Why? Please tell me what in the hell is going on. Why is this happening to me?" Slowly standing back up, all I could do was look around as the day's light went from a bright to a what was a gloomy looking gray all around me. As the wind blew by me saying to me, "More to come. For everything you knew you will see. More for a little bitch like to you to see." A cool breeze was all around me, as if it was telling me, "Everything you once loved you will now see." Just as I was standing there, the picture album then suddenly appeared in my hands, as it then opened up to only show me yet another picture. A picture of me and my son. Just as my heart sank, walking towards me in the distance, my son I could see, walking up to me saying, "Dad." I could not believe he recognized me, but how? As he then took the picture album from me, turning the pages, he then would show me one last picture. A picture of him as a young child walking with my mom and dad. With the tears now running down my face, falling to my knees, all I could say was, "I love you, my son. I know that I failed you in life, but know this, that I will forever love you." Just as he would give me one last smile before turning, making his way down the long driveway. One last sunlight would then shine down upon my son, who I had loved, my son, who I had failed, just as he then vanished. Leaving me forever, leaving me to the darkness that was to follow, standing there in front of the house that I had lived in as a child. Not really knowing of what was to come next, a fear suddenly began to come over me. With the sun now beginning to set for me one last time, forever taking with it the light of life from me. making my way back into the house as darkness began to fill everything behind me, consuming everything that once was. Making my way down the hall as all feelings of hope would soon leave me, leaving me alone to my memories as it took everything else with it. Just then, as every picture on the wall then started yelling and screaming to me, saying, "Little bitch still doesn't know. Little bitch still doesn't know." Feeling coldness all over my body as the last of the light was now gone from me, with a voice then saying to me, "Everything that was true to you is now and forever gone. Alone you will now forever be, never remembering the life that was once yours." Taking one last look into the mirror, standing there looking into the mirror at a girl looking back at me. A girl with long dark hair and green eyes, with me screaming at her saying, "Who are you? Why am I you?" Just as a voice said to me, "You're going to know. Oh, you're going to know." Remembering the picture that was laying beside me in the bed, the picture of a girl that I had no memory of, just as the hallway was now being taken over by the darkness. The darkness that was now in me, so was my memories as well. The moments that I had, the people that I knew, was now slowly being eased from me. Alone, standing there looking into the mirror with the little light that they had left for me. Just enough for me to see for one last time, just as the mirror would fog over, as the words began to appear in it, saying, "You are now her, the girl that you asked to be, the girl that you sold your soul to be." Just as the darkness was growing closer around me, pushing slowly up against my body, consuming me little by little, one last thing would be written in the mirror, saying, "Forever you will be her, never to know the life that was yours again." Standing there watching as the words slowly faded away from me, standing there as a wave of fear began to take over my body, preventing me from moving as I stood there seeing, watching as the pitch black of the void was all around me. Wanting to scream, trying to scream, but as darkness covered me, it smothering my mouth, making it impossible for me to cry out. But just as I tried one last time to reach out, to reach up, I was forever gone. I was no more. On this one autumn day I was no more. I work unorthodox hours at an unorthodox job in an unorthodox place. For those who don't know, a trap house is a place where drugs are bought, sold, and produced. A haven for illicit activities. That's where I clock in 7 days a week. Though instead of a house, this is a trap warehouse. A 2-story building located in the industrial area of our city, complete with 2 incredibly large indoor grows, a mother/clone room, a lab for making concentrates, and a large loft where we party and hold meetings. There's also a small, disgusting bathroom, and last but not least, the room where I spend 12 hours a day from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. A small office with way too many fluorescent lights, white walls, white linoleum floors, a computer chair, a shotgun, and about 20 screens of every type and size. Some are old TVs, some new, some big, some small, as well as random computer monitors here and there, all sloppily wired together. Each one displays different live camera footage of the various rooms, the surrounding areas outside the building, the parking lot, the front gate, the sides of the building, behind the building, etc. The screens and shotgun are the tools of my job. In this industry, a group of young men doesn't reach this level of trapping without a good amount of lying, cheating, and stealing, so there is a definite need for constant surveillance. We are always at risk of retaliation, unknown people attempting to rob us, employees stealing, cops patrolling, etc. The screens and shotgun are a necessity. They often save our lives and keep losses at a minimum. You'd imagine there'd be a lot of excitement in this setting, and you'd be right. When there is, there is. But when it's just me, the screens, a shotgun, and a PS4 for 12 hours a night, and nothing has happened in 2 weeks, and everyone else is out of town, it's a pretty mellow job. Sure, if things get too mellow, we have an endless supply of liquor, nitrous, weed, dabs, and a little emergency cocaine for when it's really difficult to stay awake. But I'm just not feeling that tonight. It's one of those nights I want nothing more than to kick back, relax, watch these screens, and play Skyrim for 12 hours straight. This game is insane. You open it up, and before you know it, 5 hours have passed. It's already 2 a.m. If you asked me, I would have told you it was probably 9:45 p.m. The passage of time seems strange when the screens display a night so still that the only signs of movement are the fans causing the plants to sway in their rooms and the clouds drifting across the outside cameras. Then the strangest thing starts happening. I'm focused on my game when I hear dishes clanking and the chatter of a room full of joyous people, as if they're having drinks and dinner. Yet when I look at the camera, it's just a room full of pot plants swaying in the artificial wind. I quickly open the door to peek inside, but it's pointless. It's pitch black. The only reason I can see the plants on the screen is because of the night vision. Still, it's dark enough to confirm there isn't a full-blown gathering happening inside. The second I open the door, the sounds stop. When I return to my chair and refocus on my game or the cameras, the noises start again. It's been about an hour, and though the constant sounds from the room haven't stopped, that's no longer my main concern. The unexplained merriment in the empty room next door is definitely unsettling, but not terrifying. Something else has come to my attention. The longer I ignore the noise, the closer this deep, bassy murmuring gets to my ear. At first, it sounded like a distant car subwoofer, but as it creeps nearer, I realize it's not music, it's a deep, guttural voice rambling in indecipherable murmurs and hums. The more I try to distract myself, the closer it gets, until I can feel the vibrations of the voice tickling my earlobe. Then all at once, my focus shifts to a screen, the front gate. A single person is walking down the road toward me. It's 3 a.m. No one ever walks up to our gate at 3 a.m. with good intentions. So, I grab the shotgun and walk out to meet him. I stand there, waiting for someone to approach, but no one does. I call out. No response. After another 10 minutes of standing there and peeking around the corner to see if anyone is lingering, I realize there's no one. I go back into the office, set the shotgun down, take off my jacket, and start to settle back in. But when I glance at the screen showing the gate, I see the same person standing there, motionless, 5 feet back from the entrance, staring. Again, I grab the shotgun, quickly walk outside, aim the gun, and shout, "Can I help you?" As I get closer to the gate, I can see through the plastic slots, and there's no one there. I throw open the gate. Still no one. No one up the road. No one down the road. I lock the gate as quickly as I can and rush back inside. I check every screen, expecting to see him running behind the warehouse or climbing a fence. But he's not on any of the cameras except one. He's still standing 5 feet in front of the gate. I refresh the feed, thinking it might be frozen, but the clouds are still moving above. My anxiety spikes. The murmuring behind my ear intensifies. The party sounds escalate, not just merriment anymore, but shouting. An argument. Voices rising. I run outside, nothing. I run back inside. He's at the gate. The shouting gets louder. I run outside, no one. The murmuring is so loud it feels like it's inside me. I run back inside, he's still there. It's now 4 a.m. Dawn is beginning to break, and there's just enough light outside to make out details. I zoom in on the gate, and as the voices in the room next door escalate into full-blown screaming, I finally see his face clearly. It's me, wearing the same clothes I have on. My own face, staring back at me. All the sounds stop. The only thing I hear is my own heartbeat. I'm not too proud to admit I'm about to shit myself. So, I walk into the bathroom, lock the door, and sit on the toilet, hoping to regain my composure. Finally, the silence is a relief. I close my eyes, try to shake it off. Probably just sleep deprivation. I tell myself I need a few days off. I open my eyes and see a little mouse looking up at me. Gross, but also weirdly adorable. Right as I have that thought, the mouse starts screeching and running in perfect circles. In that instant, the voices explode into full chaos. Dishes shattering. Screams. The sounds of wrenching and vomiting. The deep, vibrating murmuring is now inside me, shaking my bones. I'm done. I pinch off my shit, forgo wiping, run to my car, and open the gate. And there I am, standing, staring, gaze fixated on me. I have no interest in him anymore. No more questions. I just want to get the fuck out. The next day, I return for a shift and a meeting. The warehouse is alive again. At least 20 people hustling, working, partying, bullshitting. I tell my buddy what happened. He listens then, to my surprise, simply says, "I need to show you something." He takes me to the bathroom. On the floor, I see a mouse on its back, ribcage broken, exposed, like something had eaten it from the inside out. My friend works part-time as a Lyft/Uber driver around the Ogden metro area and recently shared this story with me. Note, this story is from his perspective. Normally I work remotely from home, checking security certificates and filing reports. It doesn't sound like much, but it can be an all-day job. Once a month my job requires me to show up at the Salt Lake City office for a mandatory in-person meeting. Around early summer of 2022, I was leaving SLC to head back home to Ogden for the day when I remembered that I had installed the Uber app and had registered as a driver some time ago. While I had never actually picked up a rider before, I figured that the drive from SLC to Ogden might earn me some nice spending money. and since it was during the active hours, it was around 12 to 1 o'clock p.m., I was destined to get a bite somewhere. I activated the app, and within minutes several potential riders pinging. I looked over the ones in my immediate vicinity, and most of them were only going as far as a mile, which I figured wouldn't be as rewarding to me financially. I saw one that wanted to be picked up here in SLC and be driven all the way out to Ogden. That's where I was going anyway, and I accepted the rider. Long story short, the rider was a normal college-age female with a friend. I dropped her and her friend off at the destination in the Weber State University parking lot, pressed drop off, and perused the app for other potential riders since I figured I had at least one more in me. One particular ride request had suddenly appeared. The pickup location wasn't far and was in the vicinity of Ogden itself, and the destination was all the way into Clearfield, which was a good 2 to 3 towns over. So I accepted and thought nothing of it. As I continued on the road, I noticed that the pickup location was something like Ogden 10th Avenue and Martin Hilltop DR, which sounded familiar but didn't immediately stand out to me. So after zigzagging through some little suburbs and 1 or 2 good busy streets is when I come to it, and then it dawned on me, Ogden 10th Avenue and Martin Hilltop DR is at the fucking cemetery. I pulled over out of the way of traffic, parallel parking at the curb directly across the street from the cemetery. By this time it was something like 3 o'clock or 3:30 p.m. Traffic from SLC to Ogden has always been hectic. It was still light out, but it didn't change the fact that my rider was pinging from the Ogden cemetery. I had a thought that perhaps it was a glitch in the system. Uber's navigation and tracking has never exactly been 1:1, and it routinely leads drivers to pick up locations that are inaccurate. I decided to test it by canceling the ride. I sat waiting in my car, phone in hand, waiting to see if the potential rider would perhaps reset its location or something, but no, it was still there pinging from the Ogden cemetery. I wondered if perhaps it was just someone without a car who was visiting the grave of a deceased loved one. It was recently Memorial Day, which in my mind made sense. It didn't make accepting the ride a second time and proceeding through into the actual cemetery any easier. On the drive into the Ogden City Cemetery, it was deserted, like there was no one around. There were, however, signs that people had been in and out in the past few days, paying respects to their loved ones, as many graves had been decorated with patriotic decor and flowers. The idea that it might be a disabled or carless person, just needing a ride from visiting their deceased relative, was comforting, but not enough to ease away the butterflies in my stomach. I reviewed the details, and as it turned out, I was already pretty close to my pickup. It was a section of the cemetery intersection 10 Avenue and Martin Hilltop Drive, which was near the very back, far left corner of the place. If you've never been or aren't from Ogden, Utah, the cemetery here is huge and sprawling, filled with many graves from the Pioneer and World War II eras. I glanced at the details again, and the alleged rider's name was C. Cunningham. Odd, I thought, as usually it would only list a first name and no initials. I continued along the drive, noticing that as I progressed through the cemetery, more and more headstones began to look dilapidated, displaced, or outright destroyed. Also in this area, the trees have taken on a very odd appearance of bulging at the trunk, giving the appearance of being pregnant. I think it's called a burl or burr, and has something to do with the deformed growth from within the tree's ecosystem. On the trees, one thing that my mind randomly conjured up was an old elementary school memory of some of my peers on the playground informing me that those pregnant trees, for lack of a better term, were in fact evil. The bulging was caused by a ghost or spirit desperate to regain a living body that it possessed a tree and became stuck and created the abnormal appearance. I thought that was all hogwash, but of course driving through a cemetery road lined with several of these dead and honestly demonic-looking trees makes me feel less confident in my original assertion. I came up on 10 Ave. It was along the evil tree-lined street. Lots of decayed, toppled over and outright destroyed headstones, and they appear to have very little in the way of care to them. These graves were old, like really old. If you've seen any documentary on Salem, witchcraft, or Halloween in old America, then you've seen the types of headstones. Slate gray or solid white, the epitaph more or less erased from decades of sun decay. Likely these graves have no living relatives to visit them, which explains the lack of flowers or Memorial Day decor. Martin Hilltop Drive, it was just around the bend and curves straight back and around. My rider is very near now. What's unsettling is that there are lots, and I mean hundreds of graves in this cemetery, as well as bigger pine trees that obscures my view and prevents me from seeing who may be waiting for me ahead. In 500 yards, pick up C. Cunningham. My GPS droned out in that dreadful monotone voice. As I rounded the bend, I dropped my car to a crawl. I could see pretty clear ahead of me now that I was away from the trees, but I saw no one. They might still be paying respects at a grave, I thought. In 200 yards, pick up C. Cunningham. Well, I can easily see 200 yards ahead of me, and I saw no one or nothing waiting for me. I kept the car crawling, slowly inching my way through the old cemetery road, eyeing the different graves on either side until I came to an abrupt end, the very corner of the road. A particularly dead-looking tree overhangs some indiscernible graves. Pick up C. Cunningham. My GPS blurted out plainly. I looked around on either side of the street. There's no way anyone is waiting for me here, because there was no one here. I decided to wait for one solid minute, and if I didn't someone approach the car from around that ugly tree, then I was canceling and getting the hell out of there. Pick up C. Cunningham. My GPS droned again. I reached for the lock button and locked all of the doors of my car without second thought. If there really was someone in need of a ride, then they could verify their order as they approach. Keeping my hands in a death grip on the steering wheel, I gazed into the rear view mirror, having a thought that someone could in fact be trying to stealthily enter my car or pull a weapon on me. Ogden does have a criminal element and a small gang presence, even if diminished due to recent gentrification projects throughout the city. Even so, I didn't want to risk it. Pick up C. Cunningham. My GPS ordered once again, like a drill sergeant issuing a command. That's it. It had been 1 full minute and no one was coming, because there was nobody to get. Eyeing the area once more before taking off, my eyes did notice a couple of distinctly older-looking headstones nestled quietly underneath the overgrown, ugly tree. None of them stood out to me as being noteworthy, but they were remarkably old, like probably Prohibition or Civil War era old. Feeling spooked enough as it was, I floored it out of there. My GPS didn't hesitate to scold me again. In 1 yard, in 5 yards, in half a mile, pick up C. Cunningham. This had to be a glitch, I thought as I reached for my phone. In 2 miles, pick up C. Cunningham. The GPS once again commanded. I was ready to cancel and shut the GPS up for the night, but as I reached to cancel, my eyes caught notice of something startling in the ride details. Rider, C. Cunningham. Location, of course, was the Ogden Cemetery, but the destination, Clearfield, not just anywhere in Clearfield, no. It wanted dropped off at the Clearfield Cemetery. I instantly hit cancel and got the hell out of Dodge. I felt too creeped out to immediately drive home, and my mom had warned me against going directly home from places where spirits are active. I drove out to a nearby Maverick, bought some drinks, and sat in the parking lot for what felt like an hour, or until I felt reasonably sure I could go home without something latching on and following me. A few months later, I was bored, and out of curiosity, I checked the Lyft and Uber apps for potential riders again, and once again I found the mysterious C. Cunningham, still waiting for a ride acceptance, clear out at 10 Avenue and Martin Hilltop Drive at the Ogden City Cemetery. Could it have been wannabe gang members looking for an easy mark or a target for an initiation? Perhaps. Was it just someone's sick idea of a joke? Could be. It is possible to set a location for a pickup while not physically being in the area. Was it just a glitch in the system? Again, possible, but seeing as how the same ride request for the same person in the same location to the same destination has been active for weeks after this initial encounter, I'm going to say no. Was it a ghost? Honestly, I don't know. I know a lot of people hate it when others immediately jump to the "it's paranormal" as a possible explanation, and this incident could very well have been something as mundane as the above mentioned. However, something deep inside about this whole thing just doesn't sit right with me, like what sane, well-adjusted, mentally stable person would commit to doing this bizarre and rather scary request. Once was bad enough, but to keep at it for weeks after the fact, that's dedication. And even if it was just a person and not a ghost doing it, that individual is probably not someone I'd want to meet, much less have them in my car. I have since deleted my Lyft and Uber apps after that, and now only work DoorDash for part-time monetary income. Being afraid is perfectly natural, Russ. There's nothing more human than fear. It's a reminder that you're alive, after all. Anyone who's alive has something to lose, right? Dr. Eau Claire would say things like that to me all the time, waxing poetic bullshit in my general direction from 5 to 6 p.m. every Tuesday evening for nearly a decade. I like my childhood therapist, don't get me wrong. He was kind, attentive, and he seemed to be trying his damnedest to fix me. That said, none of cognitive behavioral therapy worked, of course. How could it? As much as I attempted to explain that my fear was just plain different and may not respond to his normal repertoire of techniques, Dr. Eau Claire didn't appear to understand. At least, that's what I used to believe. Now it's clear to me that Dr. Eau Claire did understand. He just wasn't making his intentions known, manipulating and pulling me along like a conniving puppeteer. My current theory is that, somehow, the fear was the key to his release. But before it could free him, it needed to be purified, distilled to perfection, the terror fermenting over years like a decadent Merlot. And when he decided it was exquisitely ripe, Dr. Eau Claire culled it without a second thought. I wish I knew how he did it, and why I was chosen in particular, but I suspect I'll never get those answers, and I'm learning how to live with that. One day at a time. Normal fear is born from something. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere, that there's always a cause and an effect. Something horrific happens, and the result is fear. You take a tumble down some stairs, and now you're afraid of falling. Your aunt's German shepherd bites you, and now you're afraid of dogs. My fear, on the other hand, never had that linkage. It just was. The exception that proves the rule. Terror born without a mother. The fear equivalent of immaculate conception. I know what you're thinking. Isn't that just anxiety then? Some generalized, vague fear of everything? That's the rub though. My fears weren't universal. Quite the contrary, actually. They were hyperspecific. Unexplainably pinpointed from the very beginning. Ever since I can remember, I've been afraid of something or someone popping out of an enclosed space. Take my first birthday party. The moment a gift was put in front of me, which my family wrapped for the fun at, I was inconsolable. I'm told I was wailing like a banshee, trying to run away from the gift on legs that barely had the coordination to walk. My response was so extreme that my parents actually ended up taking me to the emergency room. They thought I may have been having a seizure or something. The doctors checked me out, but I was completely fine. After a few disastrous Christmas mornings, I was booked for therapy with Dr. Eau Claire. I always left his office feeling a little better, but in the long run, my fear never improved. If anything, it steadily worsened, year after year, reaching a peak intensity right before the event that would make our small town national news. Have you ever noticed how you talk about your fear, Russ? The vocabulary you use, I mean. 12-year-old me shrugged, struggling to provide an answer. Dr. Eau Claire put down his notepad and leaned forward in his chair. Well, you always describe it as I'm afraid of something popping out. Never jumping out star. Never asterisk emerging star. Never asterisk appearing star. Whatever you're afraid of, it's always popping out. Why do you think that is? Asterisk. Honestly, I found his question irritating. He knew me well by that point. I felt like he could have guessed how I was going to respond. Like I've said before, I don't understand why I fear what I fear. It's all just a feeling, something in my gut that makes total sense to me, even if I can't explain it. Like, I just know that popped out is the right phrase. It's the only correct words to describe it, even if I'm unable to tell you why. What does it matter, anyway? He leaned back, smiling at me. I suppose you're right. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Dr. Eau Claire winked, pulled his box-shaped glasses to the bridge of his nose, and then he said something that made no sense at the time. Not yet, at least. When Jack died, I was desperate to have a visit with Dr. Eau Claire, but I found that he was scheduled to move out of town the exact day he died. Everything had been planned months in advance. He was already long gone by the time I called the office. Didn't mention any of that to me. Didn't leave a forwarding address, either. I developed a veritable Rolodex of bullies over my high school years. Honestly, there had to be at least one on every page of my yearbook. My strange fear made me an easy target. I wouldn't classify Jack as a bully, though. That shithead was an entirely different breed. Tormentor is probably a more appropriate label, but even that doesn't capture the depths of his sadism. Although the boy was thin, he compensated for that by being tall, towering over me at a height of at least 6.5 feet. Wide forehead, freckled face, beady eyes. An absolute fucking monster prowling this earth with hate seething behind his eyes, inflicting pain without limitations. Once he discovered my fear of something or someone popping out at me, he simply could not get enough. The joy and the satisfaction that Jack was able to milk from my admittedly peculiar terror was seemingly endless. To him, my trauma was a wellspring of fresh dopamine created for him and him alone to enjoy, refilling itself infinitely. If it wasn't a beating, it was him sneaking up with a shoebox containing a spider, popping it out at me once he got close. If it wasn't a prank that targeted my fears, it was a laundry list of insults spit at me, usually about how pathetic my fears were. No matter what, it was something every day, weekends included. Preoccupied by a messy divorce, my parents weren't much help. Because of that, Mr. Muller was my only source of support. I'd known the man my whole life. He lived alone in a 3-story house down the street for the last 40 years. Never found himself a wife, never had any kids. When he retired from his job as a mechanical engineer, Mr. Muller finally pursued his genuine passions, custom-built toys. His shop never seemed to get much business, but I don't think that was the point. Unburdened by the financial strain that comes with having a family, he'd accumulated a small fortune for himself over the years, which allowed the shop to remain afloat even if it wasn't turning a profit. We had a certain kinship, Mr. Muller and me. He was an outcast, too. His eccentricities kept people at arm's length. But he was always kind to me, day in and day out, taking me in and patching up my injuries, both physical and mental. Despite our close relationship, I never disclosed the specific details of my fears to him. Embarrassment had stitched my lips shut. He knew I was different, like him, and that made me a target for people like Jack, which made what he did nearly impossible to explain. Unless there was some outside influence that had been pulling the strings. One afternoon, I arrived at Mr. Muller's, holding back hot tears from the blinding pain in my wrist. I had been walking home when Jack marched up behind me, shouting obscenities per usual. I didn't say anything back. I didn't respond, period. I kept my head down, and my eyes fixed on the sidewalk in front of me. All I wanted was for him to go away. He didn't take my cold shoulder too kindly, knocking me to the ground with a kick and stomping on my wrist over and over again, despite my pleas for mercy. Age did not temper his savagery. At 17, Jack was still the same monster he was at 12. It took a while, but I convinced Mr. Muller not to call the police. Jack's father was the sheriff, and he shielded his boy from many legal repercussions throughout his youth. Needless to say, I had been down that road before, and it only made everything worse. Mr. Muller was livid, face flushed with boiling anger, but he nodded in agreement. As I walked out, I said something that I'll regret for the rest of my life. I just wish he felt my fear. I stopped by Mr. Muller's a week later, and when he saw me, he could barely contain his excitement. The man was practically bursting at the seams when he informed me that he had something really important to show me. The behavior was immediately unnerving. Although he had eccentric hobbies, Mr. Muller wasn't socially awkward or prone to bouts of mania. Growing up in a very strict, very religious German background actually made him obsessively polite and perpetually reserved. So watching him skip and hop through his house like a court jester immediately set me off. Something was desperately wrong with my friend. I tried to convince him to take a seat in the living room and just talk to me, but he pretended like he couldn't hear what I said, frolicking down his basement stairs with an uncanny jubilance. Reluctantly, I followed him down. When I arrived at the bottom, Mr. Muller was nowhere to be seen, but I could hear him, humming a nursery rhyme to himself in his workshop, a few yards away behind a cracked door. I slowly tilted the door open, and my long-held fear finally became realized. There was a massive crate in the middle of the room. The sides of it were covered in nonsense words like Helix and Abdunneth, haphazardly painted amongst various shapes and runes I didn't recognize. Splatters of dark greens, blacks and bright reds covered every fiber of the box like postmodern art installation. Immediately, my heart rate skyrocketed. Blood pulsed heavy waves in my ears. Before I could come up with a way to excuse myself, Mr. Muller was dancing over to the crate. He sauntered around the side of it, disappearing behind the enormous box. For a moment, I thought I saw another figure in the corner, wreathed in shadow. They were staring at me with a downright debilitating intensity, wearing a rapturous smile that extended from ear to ear. The phantom's box-shaped glasses glinted against the ceiling light as they pulled a single necrotic hand from the darkness, waving pus-stained fingers in my direction, as if beckoning me closer. It looked like Dr. Auclair. There was a metallic twisting sound, which pulled my attention to the crate and Mr. Muller. When my eyes flickered back to the dark corner, the specter had disappeared. Then, I heard something that injected liquid frost into my veins. There were muffled whimpers emanating from within the box. Before I could run, Mr. Muller began singing, bellowing and hollering the words like a TV evangelist. All the while, the metallic twisting noise grew louder and louder, seemingly in unison with his ungodly fervor. All around the cobbler's bench, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought 'twas all in fun. Pop! Goes the weasel. And then the top of the crate swung open, revealing what was inside. Every single moment that I've ever been afraid, and every shred of terror that I've ever felt crystallized into that one moment, manifesting this pristine latticework of pain, shock, and panic in my mind. My fear was like a wedge of coal that had been put under years of extreme pressure, until it finally transmuted into a brilliant, shimmering diamond. Terror in its purest form. Jack, bloodied and broken, popped out of the crate. I expected him to fall forward, but instead he hung in the air, blocking the ceiling light like an eclipse. A steel pole has been fused to his spine, connected to his bones via a combination of nails, cautery, and thick metallic thread. I could hear Jack's weathered skin ripping and tearing from the tension of his weight against gravity. Blood seeped down the pole, new crimson dripping over older brown-black stains, trailing down to a massive spring located at the base of the crate. My trembling eyes drifted to Jack's maddened, bloodshot gaze, and I could see it. He stared at me with a wild, primal, incomprehensible fear. Months later, I'd hear Mr. Muller's testimony. When he explained why he kidnapped and mutilated Jack, I couldn't help but feel a tiny blip of déjà vu rattle around in my skull. He almost sounded like me talking to my childhood therapist. I wanted Russ to be safe, but like I've mentioned before, I don't completely understand why I hurt him like that. It was just a feeling I couldn't ignore. I might never uncover Dr. Auclair's part in these events. In spite of that, another matter weighs more heavily on my mind than his role in my torment, Jack's death, and his disappearance. The paradox of it all. Look at it this way. It seems like I felt the reverberations of this event all throughout my life, even though it hadn't happened yet. That's where my fear came from, I think. It's like the sensation was so intense that it somehow echoed through me backwards, altering my consciousness since the day I was born. But in order for me to have my fears, Jack has to have died, and in order for him to die, he needed to bully me. That's what caused Mr. Muller's psychotic break in first place. But Jack targeted me for bullying because of my fears, which were predicated on him being killed in such a nightmarish manner. You see what I mean? The more I think about it, the more it all collapses in on itself. It's like trying to build a house by starting from the roof and working down. If you know of Dr. Auclair, or have experienced something similar to this, please let me know. Before I end this post, though, I want to leave you all with some food for thought. I've been doing some Googling today about where the name Jack in the Box came from, and this is what I found. It has been expressed through folklore and legends that in 15th century France they were using the boxes for a very specific purpose. In French, a jack in the box is called a diable en boîte asterisk, which translates to devil in a box. It is said that these boxes were actually created to capture and hold demons or evil spirits. Many would fashion the boxes with elaborate engravings and amusing artwork to lure the demon's interest. They would then employ the playful music and surprise opening of the lid to trap the demons. Their essence was then believed to become trapped in the Jack character, which was why they were originally made to look sinister with maniacal grins. The box was then to be hidden away where no one would ever be tempted to open it again, as doing so would cause the demon to be released back into our dimension. Resource: Strange Origins of the Jack in the Box by M.R. Cameo. What was Dr. Auclair? Did I release him somehow? And is Jack trapped where he used to be? I don't have much time. By the time anyone reads this, the post will be flagged and deleted. Hell, I might be deleted too. Missing is what they'll call it. Just another conspiracy theorist who disappeared. But I have to warn you about what I found at CERN. If you don't know what CERN is, look it up. I don't have time to explain here, while working on one of their black box programs. 3 months ago, I was just another grad student assisting senior researchers. They brought me in because of my dissertation on quantum field disruptions. I thought it was the opportunity of a lifetime. I was right, just not in the way I hoped. This particular black box program wasn't studying particle physics. We were studying them, the Sombergrim, multidimensional entities that exist within the fabric of our perceived reality. They've always been here, feeding off human fear, growing stronger with each technological advancement we make. The worst part? We invited them in. Those home security cameras, Google Nest, Ring, Arlo, our laptop webcams, our fucking phones, they're not just monitoring for burglars, conducting Zooms, or uploading your damn cat to TikTok. They're portals. The Sombergrim use them to watch us, study us, harvest our fear. I've witnessed the aftermath of their complete materialization. Atmospheric pressure plummets without warning. Even electromagnetic waves go to shit. Surveillance recordings warp. Dark silhouettes shift in ways that defy natural principles. People living where they reside suffer overwhelming anxiety, persistent suspicion, self-destructive urges. Their joy vanishes, leaving behind a vacant void that counseling can't reach. Remember those childhood games? Saying Freddy Krueger in the bathroom mirror? It's like that, but real. The Sombergrim can be summoned by saying their name 3 times in front of any one of your cameras. Security, laptop, phone, etc. 3 utterances of Sombergrim, and they'll materialize in your home. For God's sake, don't try it. This isn't a creepypasta. This is a warning from someone who's seen the classified footage, who's worked with the researchers now committed to psychiatric facilities, who's watched the shadows crawl across monitors and felt that unnatural hell that follows. This is coming from someone who has lost a friend. I shouldn't be writing this. Every sentence I finish feels like another nail in my coffin. But I need to share what happened to Daniel. We worked together at CERN, brilliant physicist, skeptical to a fault. When rumors about the Sombergrim spread through whispered conversations in the cafeteria, Daniel laughed it off as superstition. Multidimensional beings that feed on fear? Come on, Mauricio, we're scientists. Last Tuesday, he called me at 3 a.m. I did it. His voice trembled. I said the name 3 times in front of my new security camera, just to prove everyone wrong. You fucking idiot, I hissed. Get out of your apartment now. Don't be dramatic. Nothing happened except, he paused. The lights flickered a bit. Probably coincidence. I guess the oven clock reset itself too, but that happens occasionally, right? I drove to his place the next day. Daniel looked terrible, eyes bloodshot, involuntary shakes as he made coffee. He admitted he hadn't slept. Something keeps moving at the edge of my vision, he whispered. And there's this pressure in the room, like the air got heavier. I tried to calm him, but I too was already on edge. I knew what he did. I understood the consequences. The oven clock still won't work properly. It's extremely slow, he added, and I keep getting motion-detected alerts from my Ring camera. I said a silent prayer for him when his back was turned. I knew he was already a goner. If there is a God, perhaps he'll feel inclined to intervene. Or, what seems to be the case, Sombergrims don't answer to any gods. CERN scientists have tried on multiple occasions to enact Holy Scripture against them. Nothing has worked yet in that regard. Daniel's cat refused to enter the living room where the camera was mounted. It hissed at empty corners, first standing on end. By the 3rd day, Daniel was unraveling. Called me crying about scratching sounds in the walls. I agreed to document the phenomena, bringing my own monitoring equipment. Big mistake. The moment I entered his apartment, something felt more wrong. A cold and then warmth that went beyond temperature. It seeped into my bones. We set up thermal cameras, EMF detectors, the works. That night was hell. The footage showed temperature drops of 15 degrees in seconds. The EMF detector went haywire near the security camera. Daniel's cat pissed on the couch, then on the kitchen counter, spraying everywhere like it was terrified and trying to mark its territory. Around 2 a.m., I felt it, fingers trailing across the back of my neck when no one was there. Daniel screamed from the bathroom that something was watching him from the shower drain. By 3 a.m., I had a pounding migraine, nosebleed, and vomiting fits. Daniel looked worse, his skin gray, eyes sunken. His apartment reeked of animal waste. His cat had diarrhea across the hallway and was hiding under the bed, growling at nothing. I woke around 4:33 a.m. to Daniel standing in the living room, stripped down to his boxers, body covered in scribbled symbols drawn in black marker. The security camera's red light blinked in the corner. His eyes were wild, unfocused. I'm ending this, he muttered, arranging candles in a circle. I've researched countermeasures, ancient rituals mixed with quantum theory. I scrambled up from the couch. Daniel, stop. You'll make it worse. It feeds on fear, right? So I'll show it I'm not afraid. He laughed with a sinister sound that wasn't his own. I understand now. It's just a quantum interference pattern. We can disrupt it. He began a rambling incantation, Latin phrases mixed with physics equations. Daniel, please. The security camera sparked. All lights went out. In the darkness, I heard breathing that wasn't ours. Heavy, wet, coming from every direction. Daniel screamed, not in fear but in challenge. Show yourself. I'm not afraid of you. Something moved across the ceiling. A shadow darker than darkness. The candles flickered violently, casting grotesque, elongated silhouettes against the walls. It was as though I was remote viewing this entire hellscape. The darkness that ensued made me feel like I was floating in empty space. only witnessing Daniel directly as the victim. I felt this may be how the somber grim perceives our world. Was I getting an inside look? I don't know, and I don't care to experiment with again. This out-of-body experience didn't last long as I saw Daniel's body suddenly go rigid. He rose 6 inches off the floor, suspended by nothing. His mouth opened impossibly wide, jaw dislocating, and emitted a sound no human throat should make. I snapped back to being in my own body, my weight heavy on feet and frozen in place. When Daniel crashed to the floor, he began clawing at his own face, screaming about things crawling under his skin. The police arrived 30 minutes later, responding to neighbors' complaints. They found Daniel convulsing, foaming at the mouth, eyes rolled back. Me, they discovered huddled in the bathtub, bleeding from both ears. The official report stated acute psychosis, drug-induced hysteria. They committed Daniel to the psychiatric ward that morning. I visited yesterday. He doesn't speak anymore, just stares at the ceiling, occasionally whispering somber grim, before the orderlies sedate him again. I understand now what we uncovered at CERN. These entities have always existed alongside us, hiding in technological shadows. By revealing their presence, I've made myself their target too. My own security cameras are disconnected now, and I've stopped doom scrolling, but it seems to have made no difference. Last night, my phone camera activated by itself. 3 times, each time capturing nothing but my terrified face. My last thought is that possibly these technocrats, the Bezos, the Zuckerbergs, the Cooks, the Sam Altmans, maybe they've made a pact with the somber grim, sacrificing us all for their own salvation. Those leaders in the technological forefronts have to know of the somber grims. Perhaps we're nothing but food as a select, elite few try to buy time for themselves. Don't call the somber grim into your cameras. They're always watching. We don't have an answer on how to stop them. Somber grim. Somber grim. Somberger. SHHHHHHHH. I found my childhood diary today. It was buried in a box of old clothes and forgotten toys, tucked away in the attic like it had been waiting for me. The cover was faded pink, the edges curled from time, and my name was still there in glittery gel pen, half rubbed off but unmistakably mine. I hadn't seen it in over 15 years. Sitting cross-legged on the attic floor, I flipped through the pages, smiling at the messy handwriting, the pointless childhood drama, the secrets I thought were so important back then. It was like reading a letter from a past version of myself, until I reached the last page I remembered writing, and saw there was more. A new entry, written in someone else's handwriting. Hello again, Alice. I froze. The ink looked fresh. The date at the top was today. My stomach nodded. I flipped back through the previous pages, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I had written it and forgotten. Maybe my mom or a friend had found the diary and thought it'd be funny to mess with me. But no one had been up here. I was sure of it. Still, I closed the diary and laughed to myself. I was just being ridiculous. It was probably an old note I'd written in a different pen, and my brain was playing tricks on me. I set the book aside and started sorting through the rest of the box. Then, just to prove to myself how stupid I was being, I flipped the diary open again. Another new line had appeared. You shouldn't have done that. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't imagined it. The ink was still drying. I stared at the words, heartbeat hammering against my ribs. My hands shook as I turned the page. You remember me, don't you? I didn't. But the moment I read the words, something shifted in the back of my mind. Like a door unlocking. Flashes of memory hit me, sitting on my bed, pen in hand, whispering as I wrote in this very book. Asking questions, waiting for responses. I remembered something answering. I had forgotten. Or maybe I had been made to forget. Pages flipped under my fingers, frantic, past old memories, past childish scrawl, past the place where I should have stopped writing, until I reached the final page. I sucked in a breath. The ink was still forming. I'm coming up the stairs. The house was silent. Then I heard it. A single creak. A footstep on the stairs. Slow. Heavy. Close. I wanted to believe it was just the house settling. I wanted to believe it so badly. But the diary was still in my lap, and when I looked down, another line of ink had appeared. Don't turn around. And then, warm breath against my ear. A whisper. You found me. I couldn't move. Every muscle in my body locked as the words sank in, as I felt the breath on my neck. It was real. Someone was behind me. No, not someone. Something. The diary trembled in my hands. My breath came in quick, panicked bursts. my skin crawling with the unbearable awareness that I wasn't alone. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself not to turn around, not to look, not to acknowledge it. Because somehow, deep inside, I knew that if I did, it would mean something far worse than just seeing it. I could hear it now, breathing, slow, deliberate, right against my ear, like it was waiting for me to react. Like it was enjoying this. The diary warmed in my lap, the pages rustling as if a breeze had passed through the attic. Another line appeared. You used to talk to me. Why did you stop? Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to scream, to run, to bolt for the attic door and never look back, but my body wouldn't listen. I remembered now, pieces coming back in jagged fragments. I had written to someone in this diary. A friend. An invisible friend. Or at least that's what I thought back then. I used to write questions, and it would answer. It knew things I couldn't have known. Things no one could have known. And then one night, I wrote something I wasn't supposed to. The memory surfaced like a corpse breaking through ice. Can I see you? And it had answered. I slammed the diary shut, sucking in a breath like I'd just resurfaced from drowning. The attic was suffocating, the air thick, wrong. The presence behind me hadn't moved. I could still feel it there, still hear that slow, steady breathing. My fingers clenched the diary like a lifeline, my mind screaming at me to run. But I knew. The moment I stood up, it would act. The pages of the diary fluttered open again. The ink was forming on its own. You shouldn't have left me alone. A single tear slipped down my cheek. I was shaking, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Then another line appeared, the words stretching across the page, more frantic now, as if whatever was writing was growing impatient. Look at me. No. No. I clenched my teeth, squeezed my eyes shut tighter. It was so close now, I could feel something brushing my hair, the weight of its presence pressing against my back. It wanted me to turn around. It needed me to acknowledge it. Another line appeared, hurried, almost desperate. You can't ignore me forever. I thought of my childhood self, scribbling away in this diary, laughing at the strange answers that appeared. I thought of how excited I'd been to have a friend no one else could see. And I thought of the night I had stopped writing, when I had woken to find words appearing on their own, without me asking, telling me things, warning me, begging me not to stop, and I had ignored it. Something moved behind me. A shift in the air, a whisper of fabric, and then a hand pressed against my shoulder. Cold. Too long. Wrong. I broke. With a ragged scream, I flung the diary away, bolted to my feet, and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. I hurled myself down the attic steps, nearly tripping as I hit the hallway, yanking the door shut behind me. The second it clicked into place, the air changed. The presence was gone. Or at least, I thought it was. Then from the other side of the attic door I heard it. A single quiet scratch. Then another. And then a whisper. Don't leave me again.